Hello and welcome back to Triclaw Gaming with me, Fletcher. And in this video, I wanted to tackle a subject that is a bit out there to the normal content that we do here. But I wanted to give my thoughts on it, and that is, what has my experience of doing YouTube been like for the first couple of years that Triclaw has existed? And I also want to try and give you guys some advice if you're thinking about starting your own channel. You know, what have I learned and what sort of morsels can I pass on to you? YouTube is very much an activity of two halves. On the one side, it can be incredibly disheartening, tiring, and very stressful. And on the other side, it can be surprisingly rewarding and uplifting. Let's get something out of the way. YouTube is not easy. And if you go into it thinking you're going to become super successful overnight and be the next PewDiePie or the next Mr. Beast or the next Markiplier or the next Game Theory or anything like that, then you're going to be disappointed. Do not start YouTube with this grandiose idea that you're gonna become an instant hit. YouTube needs hard work. Editing videos, coming up with content, putting yourself out there on the web, none of it is simple, none of it is easy. Yes, there are things you can do to make it easier, but it's still gonna require a lot of perseverance and a bit of dedication. It can also be very disheartening. You may spend, and I have in many cases, spent entire days, sometimes even a week, editing a video that I thought was really great and amazing, and the view count might be completely appalling. And when that happens, and inevitably you then may end up looking at people who make quick 30-second shorts and get millions of views, it can be incredibly downheartening on yourself when you encounter those sorts of situations. It can also be incredibly frustrating. YouTube can feel a bit like a mystery at times. And I know that there's a lot of videos and content out there that YouTube themselves have done, you know, trying to demystify the process and trying to give you tips and tricks and, you know, how you can improve your response and appeal to the algorithm and everything else. Sometimes it can also feel like a complete and utter mystery where nothing helps. In Triclaw's case, you know, you can make a video on a subject and it be really good, and then the next video on the same subject you make can get absolutely no views at all, and seemingly is, you know, there's no reason for it. The algorithm can be incredibly obscure and opaque, and it is very tiring. Editing videos is not a simple process. If you want the video to turn out really good, it's gonna take time. The average video for Triclaw can take me several days to just do the editing of, especially if it's a fairly long video and requires a lot of elements in that video. You know, the CEO video I did, that was a solid week of editing, practically, you know, 3 or 4 hours every day. It took 2 days just to edit the audio section, you know, the script of that video, let alone getting the pictures and doing all the effects and the music and everything else. It was a pretty tiring process. And then you have to also factor into that making thumbnails and finding music you can use and the actual time it takes to upload and do all that process on YouTube, handling copyright claims if you get unfair strikes, etc. It can all be really quite draining at times. But YouTube can also be extremely rewarding. Sure, not every video may strike it out as an instant success, but that means when you do get a video that is even slightly overwhelmingly successful, it's quite uplifting. You get a big jolt essentially from that. It can also be very rewarding to see your subscriber count growing day on day and start gathering a community of people around you that you can interact with. You know, you start developing this group of friends and acquaintances around you. And the process of making content itself can really help with your skills when it comes to editing and scripting, as well as your creativity with your videos. You have to learn a lot about editing software or other software you might use in this. And as a result, you kind of gain a lot of additional skills that you can then take into other aspects of your life. So what would my advice be if you were to start a YouTube? Firstly, set yourself targets that are small and actually realistic. With setting up Triclaw, the target was to get 100 subscribers in our first year. After that, the aim was to double that target in the next year. When we started gaining a lot more subs, our aim was to hit 1,000 subs by my birthday of the following year. All these were fairly limited, quite small targets, but it meant they were reasonable and possible to achieve. As my favourite video game reviewer says, life is but a search for petty victories. And those sorts of petty victories can also really help to keep you going. You know, if you start YouTube and you want to hit 1,000 subs in your first year and you don't get there, you're going to become very quickly disheartened. At the beginning, see every subscriber as a big thing. You know, see every, you know, see those views and likes and comments, and see subscribers as really big at the beginning to keep you going. Secondly, I would always suggest that you make the content you want to make. There are some people who say that you should try to appeal to the algorithm and make videos and content on what's currently popular or currently big, and sure, that is one strategy. But I'd argue that it is far more important to make the sorts of content and the sorts of videos that you actually want to do. YouTube is a long process. Triclaw's been going about 3 years now. It's important to be able to keep making content on the things that you're doing. And if you're just doing something not because you want to, but because the algorithm says you have to, you're going to very quickly start to dislike it. You're not going to be as invested in it. Whereas if you pick something, you know, if you make content on something you actually have investment in, you'll find it a lot easier to keep going with it. And connected to that idea of making the content you want to make is also my belief that you should always be yourself. Don't try to put on a personality just for YouTube, because people will notice. You'll be found out. It will come across that you're not being yourself. Always be you. I often think that if you have to put on a fake personality to be popular on YouTube, then you're kind of doing the whole purpose of YouTube a disservice, because the whole point is that your YouTube is a place for the everyday individual to show other people what they're interested in and what they like to do. So why would you create a fake version of that and not just be you? I would argue if you're making friends in real life, you don't put a fake personality on, you're yourself. And I take that position with YouTube. Yeah, some people might disagree with, you know, my hyper-pessimism at times, or the fact I'm very critical of certain things, but that's who I am as a person. You can either accept that and sort of join the debate and discussion with me and be an adult about it, or you can bugger off. I would rather you engage with me and we both have an adult discussion and debate and we share differing views and opinions. But I accept for some people they don't like that, but I don't let it get me down. But I'm certainly not going to put a fake personality on. I'm certainly not going to lie about anything. I'm just going to be me. And I think that's very important. Thirdly, one of the most important things is to plan what you're actually going to do. So when we were coming up with Triclaw Gaming, there was actually a good sort of 3 or 4 months of actually thinking about it. And to be fair, I'd been thinking about doing a YouTube for years prior. Don't just create your channel and just start throwing stuff onto the internet. Think about what you're actually going to make content on. Plan what your videos are going to look like, what your logo is going to be, what your style is going to be. Think about all of these elements. Are you going to focus on one topic specifically, or are you not? Actually plan out what you're going to do, what you want to achieve, what it is you want to make content on before you start. And related a bit to that is number 4, start collecting things. Like being a teacher, YouTube is a lot easier the more you collect to make use of. Collect your gameplay footage, collect screenshots and images, create and collect your other elements like text and logos and GIFs and images. Find the copyright-free music on YouTube, it is there. There are places you can go. Collect the details, make sure you know what you're doing. You'll find it so much easier to create your content and your videos when you have this library of stuff. There are quite a few videos I've done in the last few months where I haven't had to record anything specifically new in terms of, gameplay footage, and I haven't had to go and make anything new. I've had it all already, and I can just, whack it into my video editor, and it saves so much time and makes your life so much easier. And sometimes those, random images or screenshots or random bits of gameplay footage you might record can even inspire particular videos that you might decide to then go and make. So, just start collecting stuff and it will make your life easier. 5th, make sure you do stick to some general good practices. Make sure you respond to people who go out of their way to put comments onto your videos. Always say something back. Interaction helps the algorithm, but it's also just good manners to respond to somebody who's written a comment there. Make sure you're making good use of the tags and the hashtags, and when you're titling your videos, try to avoid acronyms. This was a tip that Evolution Square told me. Instead of putting JWE2 in the titles, put Jurassic World Evolution 2 in the titles completely, because that helps with the search. Make sure your thumbnails are also very clear, very bright, very distinctive, because that's also going to draw people in. That's why Triclaw's thumbnails switched from the hexagon that I really quite liked to the sort of bigger full screen thumbnail with the writing in the corners, essentially, because the hexagon shaped ones were just taking up too much space and you weren't really getting a good image. The ones we have now are so much better, and again, that's another tip that Evo told me about. Just take your time with it, I suppose, is the answer, is the point here. Don't rush anything, just take your time. Finally, and potentially the most important thing and tip I would say, is to remember that you're putting yourself out there on the internet. Exposure to tens of millions of people. Not all of those people will be nice. Not all of those people are going to agree with you. Not all of those people are coming to your channel to watch your videos out of good nature. Some are going to be coming here to be trolls and to be annoying. And remember that you are putting yourself out there. Think about what you say and how you speak and what you do. And in regards to dealing with people who come to throw hate speech at you or to troll you, don't get drawn into arguments with them. Deleting and blocking can be the most easy method of dealing with these pricks. Don't get drawn into tit-for-tat discussions. But at the same time, accept that not everyone is going to agree with things you might say, and you should try to be accepting of differing views and discussion. Now, I'm not saying obviously that if someone turns up in your comment section and is being, homophobic or racist or is deliberately just trying to troll you, you don't have to accept that sort of differing view and discussion. But, if you're critiquing something, or if you make a video suggesting, I don't know, Dominion wasn't very good, and you come up with reasons why, and someone in the comments, writes a long comment about why they liked it. Don't respond to that in a negative way. Actually have a discussion, debate. Think about how you're responding to people is basically the point I want to make. The last thing I want to say here is that I don't regret starting Triclaw Gaming. Triclaw Gaming as a channel might only be and streaming every week for you guys, and I'm looking forward to growing the channel further in the new year. And in fact, I also have a second channel now, One Trek Mind, where me and the buddy are focusing solely on Star Trek and talking about that. I hope that if you're thinking about making a channel, that I've been helpful in giving you just some tips and pointers to how how things can be. And if you are embarking on the process, I wish you some very good luck. But until the next video and the next stream, stay safe and goodbye.